I think we can start the class now. Okay, today we are going to study triple test. This is one of the tests we are going to study in C practical. Let's know about this test. What is the usage of this triple test? The triple test is a screening test and basically used for prenatal screening of Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, and open neural tube defects. By doing this test, we can be able to screen these uh, conditions like what we discussed. Down syndrome is a trisomy of chromosome number 21, and Edwards syndrome, this is a trisomy of chromosome number 18, and open neural tube defects is a type of defects where spinal cord disorders uh, takes place, and this is a type of prenatal screening test. Okay, we can be able to screen this kind of disorder in developing fetus. Detection rate with this test is 55 to 65%. So if we talk about the triple test, the triple test can detect this condition at the rate of only 55 to 65%. Though the detection rate is not 100%, but it helps to screen out the development of Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, or neural tube defects like disorder in the developing fetus. If we do triple test, and if there is a diagnosis of Down syndrome or neural tube defects or Edwards syndrome, then we can be able to yes, sorry for the disturbance. Yes, so we can be able to terminate that pregnancy. Okay, we can be able to terminate the pregnancy, and after that we can prevent the occurrence of this kind of disorder in the family. The test can also give false positive rate results at the rate of 5%. So once the test gives the positive result, we need to go for the confirmatory test. Okay, this triple test is a biochemical test, and if the result shows positive, then we need to confirm the test by confirmatory methods. What are the normal range of triple marker test? So in triple test, there are three markers are there, the common three markers. These days, there we usually perform quadrate test instead of triple test, because triple means three. So there are three combination of tests done. There are three biochemical markers we consider and we estimate in our sample. Nowadays in the lab, they uses quadrate test, where we uses four type of test parameter, and we detect the four, we estimate the four parameters in the sample. So because of that, we say quadrate test. But we are learning about triple test and what are the normal range. So for women is 18 to 47 years. This test reference ranges for the women is between the 18 to 47 years old. And the test parameters, the first one is the AFP, is alpha fetoprotein. The normal range is 1.38 to 187 international unit per ml. So this is the first parameter in the triple test, alpha fetoprotein. Second is a beta HCG. H means human, C for chorionic, G for gonadotrophin. So beta HCG. The normal range here is 1.06 to 315 nanogram per ml. And the third is a estriol test, written as a mu E, capital E and 3 is a estriol test. The normal range is 0.25 to 28.5 nanomole per liter. So these are the reference range for the triple marker test, the triple marker we need to do. Let's know in detail about AFP, which is known as alpha fetoprotein. Chemically, this alpha fetoprotein is a glycoprotein and a major plasma component of the fetus. So in the fetus, if you take the blood from the fetus, the plasma usually contain alpha fetoprotein. The major source for this alpha fetoprotein is liver, visceral endoderm of the yolk sac. Means alpha fetoprotein is synthesized in the fetus liver and visceral endoderm layer of the yolk sac. So from there it comes into the blood, and from there we can be able to estimate it. One of the major oncofetal antigen invariably present in yolk sac, germ cell tumor, hepatic neoplasm, pancreatic tumor with the SNA differentiation. Hence, here we say, apart from the fetus, this alpha fetoprotein is also considered as an oncofetal antigens, right? Which helps to uh, discriminate tumor of yolk sac, tumor of germ cell. It can also help us to differentiate if there is a hepatic neoplasm or if there is a pancreatic tumor, right? So this is also considered as oncofetal antigen. So what we have understand that AFP, alpha fetoprotein, is a screening test or qualitative test which detects open neural tube defects or other fetal abnormalities. This alpha fetoprotein is used as a follow-up testing for patients with elevated serum AFP or in conjugation with cytogenetic testing. When there is an elevated level of alpha fetoprotein, so at the time the doctor usually try to manage it in the normal range. So alpha fetoprotein can be used as a follow-up test. Okay, and this test is ordered in conjugation with the cytogenetic testing. Cytogenetic testing is a test where we do the chromosomal analysis. AFP is also useful for the diagnosis of germ cell and hepatocellular neoplasm. If there is a germ cell neoplasm or if there is a hepatocellular neoplasm, in such condition, AFP test is very useful in the diagnosis process. What sample do we require for AFP test? So when we do diagnosis of neural tube defects in fetus, when you want to determine or diagnose if there is a fetal abnormalities, in such condition the sample normally we need to take is an amniotic fluid. What is amniotic fluid? So the fluid which covers the developing fetus in the uterus of mother. Okay, so we need to collect the amniotic fluid as a sample, and then what method we need to do? The method for performing AFP test is chemiluminescent microparticle immunoassay, also abbreviated as a CMIA. C for chemiluminescence M for microparticle, I for immuno, and A for assay. Okay, so you just remember CMIA means what? What is the full form of this? Let's know about CMIA, chemiluminescence microparticle immunoassay. This is the method, is a modified form of the ELISA, okay, enzyme linked immunosorbent assay. So ELISA, when it is modified, we can call it as a CMIA. Okay. This is an advanced serological diagnostic technique. CMIA is an advanced serological diagnostic test technique where we uses antigen antibody reaction, and instead of uh, instead of the ELISA based detection, we uses chemiluminescence compound. Chemiluminescence labeled antigen antibody are taken to determine the level of these markers. Provides a rapid, cost-effective, and reliable method. This CMIA is very useful in the detection of the AFP, and the test is very rapid, cost-effective, and very reliable method where we can trust the reports. This method uses non-radioisotopic immunoassay procedure. Means we do not use radioisotopes during the procedure. And what is the principle behind this? Principle is when energy in the form of light is released during a chemical reaction, this process is called as a chemiluminescence. So you might have understand from the statement that chemiluminescence is a process of when energy is in the form of light is released during a chemical reaction, and that energy in the light of chemical reactions, if you are able to record it, then we can be able to detect the target antigen or antibody in the given sample. Here, the following molecules are capable of chemiluminescence. Means the chemiluminescence, you might have understand what it means, that it releases light. Okay, so energy in the form of light is released during chemical reaction from this compound. For example, luminol, isoluminol, acredium esters, ruthenium derivatives, nitrophenyl oxalates. So these are the molecules which can produce light, okay, during chemical reaction. Sorry. We are at, okay, we completed this. Next, in the CMIA, we use sodium hydroxide, which acts as a catalyst, which helps to attach or label antigen or antibody, okay, with the molecule that it releases energy during chemical reaction. That energy are in the form of light, and light emission is recorded by a special detector system, where competitive assay can be used to measure smaller analytes, and sandwich assay are used to measure larger analytes. So this CMIA can be modified in the form of competitive assays form or sandwich assays form. You can remember the competitive ELISA or sandwich ELISA. So we can make it CMIA as a competitive based form or sandwich assay form. Okay. If you are using competitive assay, then it can able to measure smaller analytes, smaller amount of the sample component. If you use a sandwich ELISA, it can measure larger amount of sample components. And this is the image. You can see that how the principle works, how the what is the working of the CMIA. So first of all, we can see this is the microplate. Okay, this is the this is the well which contain microparticle, right? This is the well which contain microparticle. Now the primary antibodies are attached to the microparticle. Okay, the first antibodies are attached to microparticle, and then now this is the target antigen. This is the sample antigens which binds to the antibodies which are attached to the microparticle. Now we can add the secondary antibody which are labeled with the HRP. So secondary antibody is labeled with the horseradish peroxidase. And after that we can add chemiluminescence substrate. So it is a luminol plus some enhancer we can add, and finally we can see the chemical reaction that produces the light. This light is recorded, and from this light we can be able to say the how much amount of components are present in the sample. Okay, so here this is a 96 well microplate, and this is the magnetic bead, what we call is a microparticle attached with the antibodies. Okay, so this is adsorbed on the surface of the well. So now sample containing antigen are sandwiched between the primary antibody and the secondary antibody. Secondary antibodies are conjugated with the HRP, and when we add luminol, which is a molecule which produces light after chemical reaction. So here you can see the chemiluminescence substrate produces luminescence light which can be detected by the optical detector. So here what we understand that more the antigen, more will be the light. Less the antigen, less will be the light. So here the light intensity is directly proportional to the amount of substances in the sample. First procedure we can do is we can add sample, then anti-AFP antibody coated paramagnetic microparticle, and then we can add AFP acid diluent. So this is the mixture we need to add first. Okay, sample contain AFP, and then this will be attached to this will bind with the anti-AFP antibody, which are the primary antibody coated on paramagnetic microparticle, right? And for this proper reaction, proper binding of this AFP with the anti-AFP antibody, we uses sample diluent. Okay, this is the buffer which provide binding of the AFP with the primary antibody. Next, the second step is the reaction will take place. The AFP present in the sample binds to the anti-AFP antibody coated on the microparticles. So here the antibody coated on microparticles will bind with the AFP. So this is a second step. We allow the reaction to take place, and for this we allow some particular time, particular temperature. Okay. Now third step is washing. Washing is very important to remove the extra or free sample sample AFP. Fourth step is now we can add the secondary antibody, where the secondary antibody is anti-alpha AFP labeled with acridinium. Okay, acridinium labeled conjugates uh, are added, and then the fifth step is incubation, then washing. So in the fifth step, when we do incubation, then what happens? The sandwich formation takes place between the primary antibodies and secondary antibodies. After washing, we can remove the if there is a free anti-alpha beta AFP acridinium level conjugate. Sixth step is we can add trigger solution to the reaction mixer. So trigger solution is something which can help the production of the light. Okay, and then after that, seventh step is that we can measure the chemiluminescence reaction using the instrument optical system. Okay, using optical system, right? The amount of AFP in the sample and the relative light units detected by the instrumental optical system are directly proportional to each other. So more AFP in the sample, so more relative light units are detected by the instrumental optical system. Okay, so this is the basis of working of this CMIA. Okay, and based on that we need to do the procedure. We can perform. We can now observe the interpretation at about 13 weeks of gestation. Amniotic fluid alpha fetoprotein level is peak. Okay, alpha fetoprotein amniotic fluid. This is amniotic AF, A for amniotic, F for fluid, and then alpha fetoprotein is at the peak level. Okay, so it's showing that when we do the AFP, so at about 13 weeks of gestation means the pregnancy. Okay, when there is a sample collection at the 13 weeks of gestation, then this sample, the amniotic fluid, will contain very high amount of alpha fetoprotein. Okay, so amniotic fluid levels is very high at 13 weeks. After 22 weeks of gestation, AFP levels decline rapidly and show a gradual decline until termination, right? So different level of amniotic fluid alpha beta proteins can be seen at the different stage of the gestation. Okay, so 13 weeks, at 13 weeks the level of AFP is very higher. At 22 weeks or after 22 weeks we can see the decline in the level of AFP, and finally the level usually declines gradually, okay, till the termination of the pregnancy. In open neural tube defects, alpha fetoprotein leaks directly into the amniotic fluid, causing unexpectedly high levels of AFP in the sample. Okay, so if there is a neural tube defects, open neural tube defects in the fetus, this AFP usually levels becomes unexpectedly very high. Certain fetal abnormalities also show high level of alpha fetoproteins, such as congenital renal disease, esophageal atresia. So these are the some abnormalities related to the fetal, and after that, uh, if we are able to detect the level of AFP, then at the time we can be able to diagnose congenital renal disease also and esophageal atresia also. This is the interpretation at the side, right side. You can see that at the different stage of the gestation, we can see different level of alpha beta protein in the sample. Okay, so we can see that 15 weeks of gestation, the value is 187, and after 16, the value is less. So slowly and slowly, we have seen here at 13 weeks, the level is at the peak level. At 15 weeks, the value decreases to 18,700. At 16, the value becomes 15,700 nanogram per ml, and gradually the value decreases. And at 21st week of gestation, we can see only there is a 6,400, nanogram per ml of the AFP. Okay, so this is the triple test interpretation, and here we see the AFP medians, like the median of alpha proteins, nanogram per ml, and this is the HCG, and this is the S fuel levels. Okay, so it's given the different we at the different weeks, like at 14 weeks the AFP level is 27.20. So this is the median of AFP. These are the median of HCG, and these are the median of estriol hormone. Okay, so this at the 14 weeks, this is the level of respective values. At 14 weeks also, so from 14 weeks to 22 weeks, the values of AFP, HCG, median, and estriol are given. The risk factor for Edwards syndrome, trisomy of 18 is called as a Edwards syndrome, where the chromosome number 18 becomes 3 number instead of 2. and the risk factor is 1:100. What does it mean? That it means that in 99 out of every 100 pregnancy, the baby will not have trisomy 18. So only 1 out of 100 usually have a trisomy 18, but 99 out of 100 usually do not have trisomy of 18. Risk factor for Down syndrome. So it's related to the maternal age also. According to the National Down Syndrome Society, uh, a 25-year-old woman has 1 in 1200 chance of having a baby with Down syndrome. So those who are no, the women who are at the age of 25, so at the age of 25, when she desire to get a baby, so the chances to get Down syndrome in the baby is 1 in 1200 cases. Okay, but at the age of 35, when she wants to get a baby, the risk factor is increased to 1 in 350. And by age 40, the risk factor increases to 1 in 100, and by 49, when the age becomes 49, so the risk factor for getting Down syndrome in baby is 1 is to 10. So for every 10 pregnancy, the one is having Down syndrome, right? So this is what this triple test is helpful in the diagnosis of Down syndrome, Edwards syndrome, neurotype defect in the developing baby. Okay, let's know some about the beta SCG. We have already studied this test. This assay is used for diagnosing pregnancy and aids in the investigation of suspected ectopic pregnancy. So if there is a some ectopic pregnancy, okay, so in that condition also we can be able to diagnose. We can be able to perform beta SCG. Beta SCG is a the one of the tests which helps which tell us about the mother is pregnant or not. Okay, let's know next. It is used for monitoring the in vitro fertilization patient. So if there is an in vitro fertilization process, in that condition, uh, the beta SCG can help to monitor that the fertilization is successful or unsuccessful. So this is what we call as ectopic pregnancy. Okay, ectopic pregnancy means it's a pregnancy in which the fertilized egg implants outside the uterus. So the egg is fertilized and then implanted outside the uterus. Then it is called as an ectopic pregnancy. That is an extra uterine pregnancy. Okay. Next, the sample can be taken for beta SHG is blood, or sometimes we can take urine sample also. The method we can do, if you are doing blood sample, we can go for the CLIA test. The principle of CLIA is chemiluminescence is defined as the emission of electromagnetic radiation caused by a chemical reaction to produce light. This is the principle that in the CLIA, the chemiluminescence, Cl for chemiluminescence, I for immuno, A for assay. So chemiluminescence is defined as emission of electromagnetic radiation caused by a chemical reaction which produces light. Chemiluminescence assay, immunoassay is an assay that combines chemiluminescence technique with immunochemical reaction. So here, this what it mean that this chemiluminescence immunoassay is a combination of two technique. One is the chemiluminescence technique, and other is the immunochemical reaction technique. Okay. So estimating the level of such immune complex by use of label antibodies form the basis of CLIA. So what is the basis of study of this CLIA? That here we estimate the level of the antigen or antibody, okay, which are labeled with the chemiluminescence compound, and this is the basis of the principle of CLIA. It involves the use of stationary solid particles coated with the antigen or antibody of interest. First of all, what we understand that solid phase, okay, the stationary phase is coated with the either antigen or antibody of interest. right? And currently, CLIA is the latest to be developed and the most advanced immunoassay technology. Okay, here CLIA that we uses in the laboratory. If you go to the modern lab, if you go to the advanced lab, so they uses CLIA technology, which are helpful in the assaying of most of the hormones, most of the drugs, most of the the this what we have studied today, the triple test markers. So this CLIA method are helpful in diagnosing or performing the test. This is the working diagram that the magnetic particles coated with antibodies first we can see, and here the sample whole blood plasma where it contains the antigen, okay, to be detected. And again we have added the alpha beta protein level antibody, alkaline alkaline phosphatase level antibodies, right? ALP means alkaline phosphatase level antibodies. So this let's say the primary antibodies are usually coated on the magnetic particles, and secondary antibodies are usually alkaline phosphatase level antibodies. Between both of the antibodies, the antigen which are beta HCG, they are sandwiched. So you can see the sandwiched form of the antigen between the two primary antibodies and secondary antibodies. Now this is what happens, that the magnetic particle coated with antibodies are absorbed on the surface of the veil. Okay, then we can add the sample, we can add the secondary antibody. Okay, the reaction takes place, the sandwich formation takes place, and after that we can add other materials which can produce the chemiluminescence substrate we can add. And after that we can see that there is a formation of light. So that light can be detected by at 461 nanometer. So measurement of light emission can be done by the optical detector, right? So detection can be done. Estriol unconjugated free, which is mu E3. Estriol, what we say, the nomenclature of the test is estriol unconjugated free. And here that this estriol values are higher in morning than the evening. This is what we need to understand, that at the morning time the value is higher side, and in evening time the value is at the lower side. So what we understand, that in the morning, when the women take rest overnight, so in the morning time this level, the value of this test is higher side. And through entire day when she's on sleep, when she's working mode, so when you take the sample at the evening, the value is at the lower side. Okay, so hence experiment should be drawn at the same time of the day to allow comparison. So when you do two tests, okay, two different tests, so at the same time we have to give the sample and we have to compare the results. The test should be used in conjugation with alpha beta protein, HCG beta and inhibin A for serial screening. So estriol test is done in conjugation with alpha beta protein or HCG, or sometimes inhibin A, which is one of the test parameter done in the quadrant test. Okay. Sample can be taken for estriol detection is serum, and method we can do is a CLIA method. Okay. Free estriol levels are used for screening Down syndrome, trisomy 18, and monitoring the output of feto-placental unit. It increases progressively during pregnancy and shows excess in levels during 35 to 36 weeks of gestation. So this is what it has been observed, that the value of estriol is increased progressively during the pregnancy, and the excess levels are found during the 35 to 36 weeks of the gestation. A decrease in serum concentration in two or more successive measurements suggests possibility of fetal distress. So fetal distress means there may be the lacking in the development. So there is an immaturity in the fetus, and so the value may be decreased in the serum. The decreased levels can be also seen in chromosomal abnormalities, fetal ancephaly, fetal death, fetal molar pregnancy, placental sulfatase deficiency, and inborn error in cholesterol metabolism. So we have completed this triple test, and now if we have any question, then we can discuss now.